Live, Laugh, Larceny discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or could be easy listening to all you psychopaths out there.
All stories are based on actual events, but details may vary.
Listener discretion is not advised.
Live,
Laugh,
Larceny. Welcome to Live, Laugh, Larceny, the weirdo who rates their prison stay 5 stars. This is Trevin.
And I'm Amanda. And Trevin.
Yes.
What is your dreadful dilemma this week?
So I have the most dreadful dilemma.
Oh, hell.
And it's actually someone else's dilemma. You see, I had this intro about 5 stars, and we actually received a 5-star rating.
Did we now?
We did. But for the reasons being, I'm going to be playing some emotional music behind this review.
Okay.
So here's our review. It's a 5-star review titled Pretty Good. It is a 5-star podcast. I have huge respect for the time and talent. I would restfully request that the term capitalism be used less loosely. Those of us who came from nothing and work hard and have things and lives do take offense. Sad, whiny millennials who clearly haven't sorted their lives out should not, well, be sad, whiny millennials. Stick to entertainment.
Wow.
Now, this very heartfelt 5-star review came in a couple weeks ago, and I was going through I was having a day.
You were in a salty mood.
I was feeling a little salty. And so I may have screenshotted this and made fun of it on our stories. Not only did I do that, but the very next week, I had a line about capitalism once in the next episode.
Right. It was already a recorded episode. And also, you're not going to look at one person's review and not talk about capitalism, right?
Right.
Okay.
In which I already had said myself, at the time, had just finished that story about the Olive Garden thing. And was like, okay, that was a very capitalism-heavy story, which I try not to do too many of the same things in a row anyway. Just like when I said, we can't do poop stuff for a minute, because we had so many poop things in a row. So it's the same way. So the next episode came out, and I don't know if this person follows us on Instagram. I don't know if they saw my salty little post. But the very next episode said capitalism once, and I just happened to look back, and that review was deleted, and we had gained a 1-star review in its place.
We were kind of going back and forth with this as it was happening in real time, right? Mm-hmm. But it's very funny to hear it all laid out just like this. It's really funny to remember how this started and where we ended up.
Yes. And so I thought, what a darn annoying thing for a person to do, to hold something hostage and be like, do what I want you to do, be how I want you to be. And then I get to do this all anonymously. You didn't get me what I wanted. I'm going to go to 1 star and I'm just going to disappear.
Right.
So I'm feeling a little spicy. And I think I need to let it out.
Ooh, let it out, Trevin.
So we need to drop the beat. I'm about to diss track, okay? Thanks for the 5 stars. I guess I'll completely overlook the fact that you generalize who I am and say that I only deserve respect as long as I'm entertaining you. I'm a real person with a day job. I'm just trying to be something more. I'm sorry your White History Month wanting ass has a problem with a little truth. The wage gap between upper class and poor keeps getting bigger, just like the distance between you and your children, Marv. They resent you every time you type a manifesto on Facebook about how everyone belonging to their generation is all the same. Do you not realize that you are grouping people you love into the argument too? People are getting evicted because their full-time job doesn't cover rent, insurance, and food, but I better drop it because the system seems to be working for you. Congrats on coming from nothing. I can see that your success has brought you here to an independent podcast's Apple profile. What a magnificent climb. Let me know when you graduate from that and eventually leave your own house, you goon. Do you not see the irony in you calling me whiny when you're telling me the term capitalism offends you? Capitalism, as in the system that you just told me is working in your favor. Does the term truly offend you, or are you trying to stop your conscience from realizing that your gain is directly related to someone else's loss? I'd really like to know what the definition of sorting your life out is, as any listener of the show knows that I am a cog in the system that I hate. I give 40 plus hours to the man a week, and I bought a house. I will die in debt, as will you, and none of us will be able to freely chase our dreams and fulfillment without the stress of trying to stay afloat in this financial system. Every day for me is a struggle to find the balance between feeling creative fulfillment and maintaining survival. I truly envy your sense of accomplishment knowing that you are doing better than others who are struggling. But personally, I want more for myself and everyone else in the world.
Mic drop! Okay, rapper Team Money.
So, a little bit of this Dreadful Dilemma segment is inspired by two different things that I love. I love Beach Too Sandy. So, of course, I was going to read his review in a sad tone. And then I love, there's a comedian named Scott Cease who does the angry customer service worker TikToks.
Oh.
So, inspired by both of those two things. But while we're here, I thought I might as well just come up with one other bad review.
Okay.
So we got a 2-star review lately.
Did we? God dang it.
And the title is Stop Laughing at Nothing.
Oh, yes.
So here is that review. The lady giggles too much at nothing. The guy has a good balance. So maybe I'm feeling spicy again.
Oh, shit.
So let's drop the beat again.
Wicka, wicka.
I'm going to keep this brief, kind of like our time on Earth. Amanda, this person thinks your happiness is impeding on their ability to enjoy life. Stop feeling joy. What's wrong with you? Did you not hear what I said at the start of this? Life is short. They want to see you spending as much time not laughing as possible. Stop enjoying life, because this person is turned off by your high spirits. Here at Live Laugh Larceny, we take constructive reviews very seriously, and this one is particularly productive. Amanda, for this listener's entertainment, please find it in your heart to stuff your feelings of good cheer deep inside yourself until you are a husk of a human being. That would be much more entertaining for them. And while I've got this angry beat playing, I might as well get this completely out of my system. How come with most of these angry reviews, gender is used in a negative way? They will take the time to use your name if they respect you. If not, you are deduced to the male host or the cackling woman. For these reviews, the first thing they try to take from you is your name. But the majority of the time, the attacks are always towards women. And it's not just our show. I look at other shows' reviews all the time, and shows of 2 female hosts are always getting it the worst. There's a huge percentage of men who think they can tell all women what they should be doing, and there's a large number of women that are also dead set on putting other ladies down. I will never understand it. We should be lifting our queens up, not putting them down just because something they are doing is making us feel bad about ourselves. Men have been trying to control women for thousands of years, but it wasn't until about a couple of years ago that someone brought it to my attention how there are so many women doing it to other women. If you're a lady who sees another lady finding success, don't put her down for how she chooses to dress. Look at that person and see hope that you too could find the same success if you choose to chase it. Look at other success and try to find your version of it. Don't try to bring them down just to make yourself feel higher. Holding everyone like you back because you think you can do better just guarantees that the entire group of people never progresses. I don't know.
Mic drop again. Thank you so much for doing that, Trevin.
You're welcome.
You just give him a good 1-2 punch.
You know, I've had a weird month. I'm going through my attitude phase, I think. So I try to avoid as many spicy meatballs as possible.
Well, I'm happy to be witnessing this. I love a spicy Trevin. But that's a really, really good point. You and I have talked about the whole gender thing. Like, why do I have to be the cackling female or the male host? Or, you know, I love how you put that. So well done.
But it is just so weird.
Yeah.
It's not like it offends me that somebody is calling me the man. I don't really care. But why is that the first thing you go to? And like the way it's phrased, it's like, the man is doing this, or the cackling woman is doing this.
I know.
I can tell it's derogatory.
Yeah. We say our names every intro. Like, you know our name.
Yeah, if you've listened to us enough to know our names and choose not to use them, then that tells me that you're just trying to be a dick. Mm-hmm. Or if you don't know our names, then you didn't listen enough to have the context to even be allowed to make a review.
And I don't laugh at everything, just mostly everything, okay?
Yeah. We've been receiving a little bit more messages and stuff lately about your laughing, and it's just like, who gives a shit, people?
You know what? I'll just be depressed. That's what I'll do, okay? Starting now.
Yeah, I was thinking about finding some way to punish you for laughing. This person would feel a lot better if every time you laugh, we take money from a charity. So that will teach you to stop. That will teach you to stop, and that will make that person know that we're working towards fixing this. And the sad thing is, these people who are so annoyed by something so small would probably be like, okay.
Oh, yeah. They'd be like, okay, way to shut that cackler up.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's crazy. Well done, Trevin. You just let them have it. You know what's so funny, Trevin, is that I also have a dreadful dilemma. And my dreadful dilemma has to do with singing.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not going to break in a song, okay? But I did want to share this. So I have a personality quirk, and no, I'm not going to talk about my laugh, but I have a personality quirk.
Mm-hmm.
It has followed me around my entire life. One of the first times that this happened and came out was when I was in elementary school. We were about to do a musical program at school, and there was a song called Heart of America. I don't know if I've told you this story before or not in our friendship.
Sound familiar.
So, the song goes, we're living in the heart of America, right?
It's one of those slow clap songs.
Oh, it's like, ooh, like I'm feeling this,
Mm-hmm.
And so we're jamming. I'm feeling the beat. I'm little elementary school Amanda at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We're rehearsing. We're singing. The music overcame me, and I just let it out. And I was like, oh, yeah. So loud, Trevin, that everyone in the room heard it. All the kids, it was like a full school program.
So is this one of those school programs where you're all on like rafters and there's no mics or anything? You're all just projecting out?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we're rehearsing, and I'm over here, belting it out. And I didn't even mean to do it. Like, it wasn't even... I don't know how to explain this, because to a lot of people, they'd probably just think, oh, attention seeking, which I love attention.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I'll be the first one to admit that. But it wasn't even about the attention. I actually felt a little embarrassed after it happened because it just came out of me, right?
The spirit just hit you.
The song just came out. So not only is this something that has happened when I was young, but even recently, my sister-in-law had a birthday party. And it was such a lavish and fun birthday party. We got all dressed up. And here we are. It's the end of the night. We just went out on the town and we're singing her happy birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I got to find this video. I wonder if you guys would want to see the actual video or not. So we're recording. Someone's recording. It wasn't me. We're singing Amanda happy birthday, and I'm on a level. I'm intoxicated, but I'm belting out this happy birthday song. And so we're all singing. She blows out the candles, and it's dead silence after she makes her birthday wish. And out of nowhere, I just go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, it was dead quiet in the room, and it's all captured on this video. And everyone died of laughter. So it's really just a dreadful, dreadful thing that happens to me as I just get overcome by the music.
I get that. I thought you were going to tell me you did a long Christina Aguilera like vocal run, like, oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, no. I will share the video with everyone if they want. But no, I was feeling the happy birthday song.
Okay, Amanda loves the birthday song.
So yes, it's just a really dreadful time.
And the worst thing about that is that there is a video that exists, so it could make you feel worse.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those embarrassing videos that could almost go viral because I'm just in the background thinking that I'm like Celine Dion or something.
I have one of those moments with you. Do you even remember this?
I don't know.
It was at your, I think it was birthday, where we did the karaoke.
Oh, yeah.
And I got so drunk that they were like, oh, do one. And I was like, okay, I think I did, Billie Jean? Or it was a Michael Jackson song.
Yeah, that sounds...
Maybe it was Beat It. I don't remember.
Did we sing together?
No, it was me and Brad. But I remember I just kind of lost myself in it. And then afterwards I was like, I think I screamed the entire time. Like, I don't think I was doing well. I think I was screaming. And then I had heard that somebody had recorded it. And I was just like, I never want to see the light of day again.
I'll have to see if it was one of my parents that recorded that.
Oh, well, if it is, let's just let it die.
Let it die. Wow, what an intro. Are we on to 2 truths and a lie?
I've got 3 wires. Which one do I cut?
I'll give you 2 truths and a lie.
But wait, we don't have time for this. And it's all on you. So lie to me, Mama.
Oh, God. Will I ever? So I have 2 truths and a lie for you about calling 911.
Interesting.
It kind of got me thinking when I had my 911 call. Was that last week or the week before?
Oh, you mean in the story? Yeah, that was last week.
Yes. We've talked a lot about 911 calls, so I wanted to give some facts. Statement number 1. An estimated 240 million calls are made to 911 in the U.S. each year. Statement number 2. Saturdays have the highest number of 911 calls. And statement number 3. Most operators are required to type a minimum of 35 words per minute.
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with A is the lie because I feel like it's more.
You're wrong.
Psh, I'm always wrong.
I know. You need to get one right.
I need to make
next
a diss
week.
track on you for making me wrong all the time.
I know. So, statement number 1 is correct. It is 240 million. Also, while I'm here, I didn't look this up to see just how many different emergency numbers, but clearly 911 is just a U.S. thing.
Right.
I'm actually curious to know just how many different numbers per country or like what it is.
Yeah, it would be kind of interesting just to see a picture that shows all of the different ones.
Statement number 3 was also correct. Most operators are required to type a minimum of 35 words per minute. Are you a good typer, Trevin?
I am a very good typer.
Oh, okay. Do you know your word per minute count? I don't.
I don't remember. I input a lot of data.
So, statement number 2 is surprisingly the lie. I would have thought that Saturdays are the most high action time for 911 calls too, but actually it's Friday. Saturday is obviously
probably second.
The second. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, wow, maybe people are a little too excited for the weekend to begin. I don't know, but...
Well, I'll tell you this. When I go out on Fridays, I'm still coming off the work week directly off. I think mistakes are more
likely to be
likely,
made. Yeah, that's a good point. Because we're not our full energized party selves. We're like our rolled out of the workstation partier, and yeah, things could go astray very quickly, I guess.
Yeah, my party days, I always preferred Saturday because I could come at it anew.
That's a good way to look at it. So what about you, Trevin? Do you have a 2 truth and a lie?
I have 2 truths and a lie, and I'm going to do it about everyone's favorite food, Spam.
Oh, okay.
Well, you're a vegetarian, so I guess you're not a Spam eater.
No, I've never been a Spam person. Not that I'm opposed.
Yeah.
It's just never happened for me.
There's that stigma to it,
There is, but I hate those kind of stigmas.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's good, My dad had it when he was a kid, but then for some reason it just never was a thing in my home, so it's just something I don't have any experience with. Mm-hmm. I've never had it because I never had to. Yeah.
So I'm going to give 2 truths and a lie about Spam, and here we go. Statement number 1. There are less ingredients in Spam than a hot dog. Statement number 2. The name Spam is an acronym for scientifically processed animal matter. Or statement 3. Spam had a team of women who toured in the name of Spam.
Wow. That's a tough one, Trevin. I don't know why I'm putting the most pressure on myself when it comes to the Spam question, but usually I just go with what I feel. But I'm really, really torn. God, it's either B or C, but maybe it's A. I'm going to go with B being the lie.
So you believe that it does not stand for scientifically processed animal matter. You are correct.
Oh, thank God. What does it stand for?
A lot of people aren't sure, but they believe that it was just a portmanteau on the words spiced and ham, Spam.
Oh, that would make a lot more sense.
But it's actually very widely believed. Somebody made that up, and a lot of people still tell each other that it's scientifically processed animal matter. That's not just something I made up. That's a very believed lie.
Holy crap. Okay.
There are less ingredients in Spam than a hot dog. That's another thing, too, is I was going to say, people don't really know what's in Spam. I know you've probably heard that, too. Mm-hmm. But it's pork shoulder is the meat.
Okay.
Salt, water, sugar, potato starch, and sodium nitrate. That's it. It's like 8 ingredients compared to a hot dog, which is like tons. And they haven't really changed up the way they do it. I think the weirdest thing about it is it's canned meat. I think that's the only thing that shows in the can. But it is actually way more straightforward and a lot less processed and disgusting than a hot dog is.
Right. I've heard really creepy things about what goes into a hot dog.
Yes.
Okay. So really, guys, like we should all be giving Spam another chance, maybe.
Maybe. And then also there was women called the Spamettes.
So I was going back and forth. I was like, no way did they really do this? But then I was like, nah, they really did.
So it's actually kind of a marketing thing. Spam was first made in the 30s, and I forget what it was originally made for, but I mean, it just needed to be a meat that wouldn't go bad. And so when World War II went, like 90% of the Spam was going there. And then after the war was done, they didn't have a lot of places to put it, kind of like the milk. Except instead of putting it in caves, they were like, well, we just need to do better with marketing, which honestly, the milk had a marketing issue too.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm telling you, marketing.
World War II caused a major necessity for marketing.
It really did.
So they wanted to try to make Spam more cool and stuff. So they basically just had these women called the Spamettes or the Hormel girls, because Hormel is the company that makes Spam. They would tour around and go to grocery stores. They said there was like a fleet of 28 matching Cadillacs or something, and they would all just drive in a caravan, and they would play music because each one of them knew how to play an instrument.
Ooh.
So they would just put on little jazzy shows and sign stuff and be like, yeah, I'm the Spam girl. So if you were to go to a small town, you would maybe take your little kid and go, oh my gosh, the Spam girls are in town. And they would just sit, watch a little concert. And then your kid would probably take a picture with one and being like, I took a picture with a Spam girl.
Right. Oh, I love that.
And that actually boosted and made it very popular.
I could see it. You got a bunch of hotties walking around telling you to eat some Spam. Okay.
Yeah, it makes me think of back when I went in audio school in Arizona, they had the Red Bull girls come by all the time.
Right. See, I was thinking of like when you go, I do a lot of Instacart ordering, as we all found out last week with my dreadful dilemma. But when you go to the grocery store and they have samples for alcohol or energy drinks or something, but this was like a way more grand scale.
Yes.
They made an entrance. Oh, yeah. I could see that working.
I thought that was a really neat thing. And it's actually very popular. I think they said 1 out of every 3 Americans have Spam in their cabinet. We may have that weird stigma about it, but it's still quite popular. I can't remember, it was like 90 million cans of Spam get eaten in Hawaii alone just because it's used in a lot of traditional dishes over there.
Right.
And it's actually a delicacy in Korea.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You could go and get these fancy braised chicken noodle dishes and stuff, and with the braised chicken would be Spam as well.
Dude, I'm all about that.
So it's definitely reinvented and very different in different places.
Bring back the Spamettes, I say.
Yeah, I'd watch them.
Oh my God, that's actually really fun. You know what else I love, Trevin?
What could that be?
Ads. And we're back. So we have reached story time, and I am going first this week. This is a story from the news, and I'm not really going to say a ton about it, other than there were a lot of things that drew me to this story, a lot of personal connections that drew me in, and also this story made me make a hot tea to get prepared for it.
Wow. It's kind of funny to think of how a listener's hearing this, and they're like, this story made me need a tea. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean?
There I go again, laughing at nothing. So, with that mysterious introduction, here we go. What personality traits make up a petty criminal? As we've discussed on our show, frequent hangriness, overconfidence, and general stupidity account for the majority of these characteristics. But today, I'm here to discuss a far less common trait. One so rare, in fact, that it may not be a trait of a petty criminal at all. Regardless, this is a habit so shocking, I'm almost ashamed to admit that I possess it. And it is the insatiable need to burst out into song. I've always been at risk for developing this, As I was born with strong vocal cords, shined at all my elementary choir performances, and still to this day, love an adoring audience.
That's my daughter up there.
But this story isn't about me. This is about another spontaneous singer and what happens when music turns into misconduct. In Margaret Gaye's mind, she was living in her own personal musical. It didn't matter where she was, what she was doing, or who she was with. There was always a reason to sing. It was common for her to belt out her grocery list while passing other shoppers in the store. Eggs, milk, and toilet paper. And to respond in song when a coworker asked how she was doing. I could be better in all honesty. Margaret didn't always create her own lyrics, of course, as some life situations called for an already existing song. For example, she sang Ludacris while driving in traffic.
Ooh, bitch, get out the way.
And vocalized Rebecca Black every single Friday.
Tomorrow is Saturday and Sunday comes afterwards.
And although every weekend did end up coming to an end for Margaret, it didn't stop her constant singing. Every day was a new opportunity to serenade herself and others to describe how she was feeling. Waking up on May 9th, 2013, happy songs were not on the day's playlist. Margaret had been dumped the evening before. She had traveled all the way to Las Vegas from New York just to be told it was him and not her. Even more insulting, the breakup wasn't even done in song form. Regardless of her heartbreak, it was a travel day, and she needed to catch her flight back home. Riding in an Uber to the airport, Margaret tried to sing a heartfelt goodbye tune, but began to sob instead. By the time she reached her terminal, she was an emotional wreck. She just needed to make it home and realized that she was in no condition for a cappella. Margaret boarded her plane with her fellow passengers as she lowered her head and sniffled sadly into her neck travel pillow. She took a window seat towards the back of the plane. To her, it felt like the perfect seat for someone crumbling from the inside out. Margaret began to tone out the captain and flight attendants speaking over the PA system.
Is anyone listening to me?
As she stared tearfully out the plane window. As the flight began to lift off, Margaret started feeling a little jittery. She didn't know if this was because of her emotional state or the fact that she hadn't eaten or taken her diabetes medication that morning. Regardless of the cause, the jitters climbed up her legs, through her torso, and into her throat. Margaret tried to gulp it down, but it was no use. Too many hours had passed, and too many emotions were had. It was time to let it all out in song form. She started off softly as a popular ballad began spilling from her lips. And I will always love you. Margaret figured the passenger next to her was listening, but she couldn't help but continue. Louder and louder, her voice began to project throughout the plane. And I wish you joy and happiness. Margaret sang to the other gawking passengers as a flight attendant approached her. I'm so sorry, ma'am, but on behalf of American Airlines, I have to ask you to zip it, a non-confrontational flight attendant politely stated. But at this point, the song had taken over Margaret's body completely. But above all this, I wish you love. After various crew members and passengers had tried to encourage the woman to give her pipes a rest without success, a federal air marshal on board stepped in. Ma'am, you're gonna need to come with me, the marshal demanded, handcuffs in hand. Margaret turned to look at the marshal and took a long, deep breath. And I According to reports, on May 9th, 2013, 50-year-old Margaret Gay boarded an American Airlines flight from LA to New York. Once up in the air, she began to belt out the song "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston for 3 hours straight. After refusing orders from flight staff and a federal marshal, the pilot was forced to change course halfway through the flight. The plane landed at the Kansas City airport, where multiple officers escorted Margaret off of the plane. But this didn't mean that she exited quietly. Video footage was captured by another passenger, showing Margaret continuing to sing all the way down the aisle. Once off the plane, Transportation Security Administration officials at the airport questioned Margaret and offered medical attention that was later refused. American Airlines didn't press any charges, but they refused to allow her to get back on the plane. The only reported theory of what may have contributed to the musical outburst was Margaret telling authorities she had diabetes. This story has taught me the importance of knowing your audience and knowing when to just shut up. Because no matter the size of the song in our hearts, others might not want to hear them. In closing, petty criminals have a wide variety of personalities, some being much louder than others. So warm up those vocals and save them for the appropriate moment, because catching flights is much better than catching charges.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got feelings.
Do tell.
Literally, she was just singing "I Will Always Love You" on a loop for 3 hours?
Yes. Like I said, the only video was of her being exited off of the plane. And of course, a lot of the articles that I read didn't give me enough information. But what I did gather is that, yes, this was so consistent and continuous for the 3 hours. I mean, they're not going to reroute a plane for someone who's just casually singing, maybe.
You know, that was the thing that stuck out to me as the most bizarre was, why would you land a plane because somebody's being loud? I mean, I understand you can't forcibly shut them up and put a sock in their mouth, literally. But if I was a person trying to get from point A to point B, I'd be like, listen, this woman sucks, but I still want to get to LA on time or New York or whichever direction it was.
Yeah. It was from LA to New York. I mean, I get it. That's a 6-hour flight because they said the halfway point was Kansas City, which, as I was telling you when I was reading it, a lot of the reasons that made this story just a little more personally connected to me. Obviously, Kansas City is where we're from. And the crime in question, I guess she didn't get charged with anything, but she still got escorted off a dang plane. Happened on my birthday, May 9th.
Exciting.
I just thought that was really interesting that I stumbled upon a story that had that. But apparently it was so disruptive, flight staff and the air marshal or whatever stepped in and they asked her repeatedly, please stop, please stop, please stop. And eventually everyone just had enough of it and they stopped the plane and kicked her off.
I just can't understand stopping a whole plane for it. That's wild. And then you said they let her back on.
No, they didn't.
I thought you said they did.
No. They didn't charge her, but they refused to let her back on the plane.
Yeah, because she'd probably be like, I'm better now. And then seconds in there, it's like, psych, shouldn't have fell for it.
And also, obviously, the diabetes thing, I don't know. I don't know enough about diabetes. I know that for me, I have reactive hypoglycemia or whatever. So yes, I will feel shaky and my blood sugar when it gets low and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe if you are going into distress when you have diabetes, maybe it can affect you that way.
If you're in distress, maybe you're singing to calm yourself down.
I don't know. But in a couple of the reports that I read, it said that they offered to give her medical attention and she refused. So there's a lot of gray area. And actually, there was only one article out of all of them that I read that even gave me her name. They were very low key about the whole thing.
That's weird.
And it was from the LA Times article, I think it was the one that gave her name. And they said they got it from the Kansas City airport officials report or something. It's fascinating. But yeah, they stopped a whole plane for this lady.
I'm going to say a funny thing about diabetes real quick.
Okay.
So Emily and I have this inside joke. At her work, They had this thing where they do like a spotlight of certain employees.
Okay.
So it'll be like name, Amanda, birthday, this, favorite candy, hobbies, and then you would put iPodcast or something like that.
Right.
Or no, it says fun fact, not hobby. It says fun fact, and then they say, podcasting or whatever. So somebody must not have understood it correctly. And it's this girl in her profile, her spotlight was like, name, Jennifer, favorite candy, Snickers, fun fact, diabetes. It wasn't I have diabetes. It's just want a fun fact? Diabetes?
Diabetes, brumch.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anytime we hear something about facts or something, I'll say to Emily, like, diabetes? Yeah, I wonder if that person was ever embarrassed about that.
I would be if I was seeing everyone else's spotlights and mine said diabetes as my fun fact.
Amanda's fun fact, diabetes.
I would feel a little self-conscious about that. Oh my God, that's wild.
I like that story, and I love being able to tie your story with your dilemma.
Yes. And what's really fascinating is that's another thing. I didn't really mean to tie those together, but as soon as I had the story and as soon as I was thinking about that being a dreadful dilemma, I was like, those have to be in the same episode. No doubt.
Yeah, I love writing a story and being able to express something you're currently thinking about or currently going through and using that to help give yourself more of like a first person feel when you write it.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It wasn't like I was like, I need to find a specific thing that has to do. But when I did find it, I grasped onto it and was like, yes, I can relate to this lady. I wouldn't go that far with my outbursts. I know when to quit.
Yeah. If somebody asked you to stop, you would be offended and stop.
I'd be very offended, first and foremost. But yes, I would quit eventually.
Yes. Well, I love that, and I love your ideas for sounds, and I can't wait to hear it all together.
And so sorry. Like I said, I wanted my voice to be fully healed from this allergy attack.
Oh, yeah. You listeners, if you wondered me not understanding the whole tea thing, now we know.
I had to drink a hot tea just so I could even try to sing for you all today.
I think you did great on your loud part, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I have a story as well.
Okay.
And you're going to have to listen for connections because I didn't have any off the top of my head. Just makes sense to me.
Okay.
But we'll just take a gander and see.
I'm intrigued to see if we can find one.
And here we go. Home. What first comes to your mind when you think of the word home? Is it the warm hug of a parent? A kitchen where everything is in its right place? Or is it simply the only place where you will allow yourself to take a dump? No matter what your definition is, we can all agree that our home is comforting. It is a place where we know everything will be all right, a kitchen without stress or frustrations. And yes, even your rectum's sense of relief after holding a big brown bomber for an entire 8-hour shift. And we appreciate our homes for all they do for us. We need our home. It is what brings us life. I would be so bold to say that every living person has a home, for we would surely die without one. Even the gruffest and toughest bullies on the internet have some kind of comfort that they call home. They just keep it protected. So what if you're separated from your home? If your home is a parent, you can still find ways to visit. If you are moving physical homes, you can make sure your next kitchen is organized how you like. And if it's the toilet thing like me, I can usually trick myself into thinking that wherever I'm sleeping for the night is considered the safe toilet. But what if your home is a physical thing that can't be replaced, moved, or reimagined? An immovable object that distance ultimately must come between. Well, that would certainly be a dreadful dilemma, because as I previously stated, a person without a home would surely die. Today, I will be telling you about a man who was faced with this very quandary. Just a dude in his home, staring through a tunnel of space and time, wondering if it will be forever before they cross paths again. Let's get on with the story. Tony was a stubborn man, living in LaRueville, Louisiana, in the late part of 2021. He loved the finer things that Louisiana had to offer. Mardi Gras celebrations, Cajun food, and jazz. But there was one thing about Tony's character that really defined him: his ability to be self-sufficient. For most of his life, Tony took great pride in being able to do things himself. Anytime someone offered to help him with something, it felt like a sucker punch straight to his ego. Even an act as simple as holding the door open felt like a subtle attack on him.
My pride!
Do they think I'm not capable of opening my own door? He would often think to himself, leading him to scoff at people who were just doing something nice. There was just something about doing things on other people's terms that really took the flavor out of life for Tony. He didn't want unsolicited assistance, and he definitely didn't like someone telling him what he can and cannot do. Because of this, laws, regulations, and yes, even paying taxes were a very quick way to set Tony off. During this time, Tony had been going through the dreadful dilemma of house shopping. It had been a long and tedious process, as home buying in 2021 was a minefield of disappointment. He could wake up full of hope after a suitable home becomes available, only to go to bed sad when that very home would be purchased for way above the asking price. It was an utterly hopeless time. He already had the land, but with the prices of wood, he knew not to take a chance on building a home. Surely, the perfect home had to be out there for Tony. After months of riding the waves of house hunting hope, Tony's luck had a sudden change. On an early morning scroll sesh of Facebook Marketplace, he saw a recently posted home. The second his cursor hovered over the home's photo, a feeling came over Tony that he couldn't explain. This was the one. He just knew it. Without hesitation, Tony scheduled a showing time and headed in its direction. Pulling into the driveway, his breath was instantly taken away by its glorious sight. He got out of his truck and was greeted by the seller.
Hey, you must be Tony,
The man said, extending his right hand.
My name is Man Guy. I'm the one you messaged on Facebook.
Tony reached for Man Guy's hand and gave it a firm squeeze.
She sure is a beauty, ain't she?
Man said to Tony.
She sure is,
Tony said in awe. So what can you tell me about this home? Man put his hands on his hips as he scrunched his nose in deep thought.
I reckon I'd say she's about 1,500 to 1,700 square feet.
Tony accepted his answer, but he still pushed for a little more.
Yeah, but imagine you were writing an article about this house. What information would you give about it? What would you have to say about its shape or color?
At this point, Mr. Guy was getting a little frustrated.
Listen, Tony, it's house color. On the off chance that anyone were to ever write an article about this house, explaining that it's between 1,500 and 1,700 square feet, will give any reader all the information needed to perfectly picture this house.
Tony dropped the subject as they went on to tour the home. The tour was a breathtaking experience for Tony. He loved how you entered the home using a door. Every room was room-shaped.
Whoa.
And the kitchen even had a sink. There was nothing noteworthy about this place at all. It was a house, and Tony knew right then and there that he had to make it his house. Tony immediately made an offer that, for the purposes of the story, was instantly accepted. The two spit in their palms, shook hands again, and set a date for Tony to pick it up and move it to his property about 3 miles away. After months finalizing the purchase and preparation for the move, Tony arrived back to the house with his truck and trailer. He hoisted the large home onto the trailer, tied it down, and prepared for his short journey across town. Attempting to avoid traffic and take a shortcut, Tony pulled the home directly into the nearest sugarcane field where the truck immediately got stuck. While attempting to get his own future home unstuck from the field, a police officer passed by and stopped at the unusual sight. The visit was relatively short. The officer gave Tony a warning, stating that the movement of an entire home requires a permit so that the proper measures can be taken, and so the local government can profit off of his purchase. Tony agreed to get a permit, as the police officer got into their car. But as the cop began to pull away, Tony mumbled something under his breath. "Stop treading on me, pig. I'll never get a permit to move my house. Tony left the house in the sugarcane field for about a week, due to it being so hard to move a full-size house from a field. He knew the fuzz was keeping an eye on the activity of his new home. If he was going to make this most epic move, it would need to be done during the wee hours of the night. In the middle of the night, Tony and his friend Nico arrived at the sugarcane field, prepared to get the house unstuck. Between the two men, breaking the home free was easy, but the hard part had just begun. "Are you ready to make this most epic move?" Tony asked Nico. Nico nodded as Tony put the big truck in drive, pulling the home out of the field and onto the parish road. Out of the ditch and onto the small road's asphalt top, Nico heard a large crash. Bright lights reflected off of the men's faces as they looked back to the sight of sparks. On their way onto the road, the house had bumped a light pole, sending it falling to the ground.
"Oopsie,"
Tony said to Nico as he continued moving down the road. "It was just one light pole. We've got to keep going." But just as Tony started to pick up speed, the two heard more crashes. This time, power lines were broken and lying on the ground behind them. "Don't even ask," Tony said as he kept his eyes on the road and proceeded pushing forward. As the drive continued, the two men barely spoke. Each time one of them heard the sound of another fallen telephone pole or the crunch of a mailbox, their anxiety would build. "It's only about 3 miles, Tony would say to himself. "Once it's delivered, we can pretend none of this ever happened." But still, with each 8th mile covered, more and more property was being damaged. Fences, street signs, telephone poles, and yard decorations. Nothing was safe from Tony's moving home. Tony was quickly finding his limits to how much he was willing to ignore in order to move his house. He thought about the poor people who would be without power because of him, or the birds that would no longer be able to bathe because of the bird bath he vaporized with his back door. He focused all of his worry into taking in the sights of the road ahead. Coming up was a novelty choo-choo train mailbox. It looked hand-painted. Whoever lived at this home must have loved trains. For that short stretch, the beauty of this train mailbox gave Tony peace in his direction to continue driving. As the mailbox got closer, Tony gently turned the truck's wheel, attempting to miss the little wooden train. However, his calculations were incorrect, causing the house to slowly barrel over the mailbox, reducing the hand-painted train to a pile of wood. Tony imagined the owner of the home waking up in their conductor pajamas, running out to find their mailbox destroyed, and then crying in train. "I've gone too far," Tony said out loud as he stopped the big truck, put it in park, and shut off the engine.
"What are you doing?"
Nico asked. "We've had a good run, and I really want this house. But at what cost? People don't deserve to pay the price for me getting a new home, and I'm sure as hell not going to give the government my money to get a permit. I don't need this house, I don't need this trailer, and I don't need this truck. Let's just cut our losses," Tony said, explaining his powerful epiphany. Moved to tears, Nico agreed. The two men jumped down from the truck and fled, abandoning the house and all of their equipment in the middle of the road. In May of 2022, Tony Domingue and his friend Nico attempted to move a 1,500 to 1,700 square foot home 3 miles through LaRueville, Louisiana. In the process of the move, the unskilled movers destroyed mailboxes, trees, road signs, and telephone poles, causing over 1,700 people to be without electricity. Once the truck and house had caused enough damage, Tony and his friend decided to abandon the home in the middle of the road and flee the scene. At around 3:30 a.m. on May 22nd, police responded to 911 calls about an abandoned house, truck, and trailer on Burrard Road. The police immediately recognized the home, as just 1 week prior, Tony Domingue had gotten the house stuck in a sugarcane field and was told he needed a permit to move his home. Later that morning, a tow company worked together with the local electric company to tow the home the rest of the way to Tony's property before finding him and his friend and arresting them both. Tony Domingue and Nico Camus were arrested and each charged with violation of parish ordinance, simple obstruction of highway commerce, and criminal damage to property. According to state law, simple obstruction of highway commerce is, quote, the intentional or criminally negligent placing of anything or performance of any act on any railway, railroad, navigable waterway, road, highway, or runway of an airport, which will render movement thereon more difficult. This charge alone is punishable by a fine of no more than $200, imprisonment for no more than 6 months, or both. Their bonds were set at $125,000 each. Details on the final punishments were never made public. So would you let the government come between you and your dream home? Would you attempt to solve your issues by moving said home on your own? I assume most of you rule followers would just get a permit, huh? Sometimes things aren't that easy for the idealists like Tony. This guy was feeling tread upon, and when that happens, you need to step up and do what's right for you. I wish I had more information on how things turned out for him, but it's sweet to know that the tow company moved the home to where he wanted it and set it back to start. At least we know that whenever Tony did get out of jail, he had his dream home sitting right where he wanted, waiting for him. The relationship between a person and what they call home is a very powerful bond. Whether it's the safe toilet, the closeness one feels in the presence of their favorite person, or a literal home itself, no person should have to be separated from that feeling. As much as we can point and laugh at Tony, I hope you can all take a page out of his book and feel inspired by his need to fight for his home. In closing, I will leave you with perhaps the most fitting lyrics ever when talking about our homes and this story. The 1983 hit, Our House, by The Madness. Our house was our castle and our keep. Our house, in the middle of a street. Our house, that was where we used to sleep. Our house, in the middle of a street.
Wow, that song could not have been more perfect.
And that was like actually a last minute decision. I was going to do lyrics and I was just going to steal any old cheesy song about homes, like home, make me go home. You know? But then it's like, oh shit, our house.
It's in the middle of the damn street.
And I've always thought those lyrics were weird.
They are. Holy crap. Like moving a house is no small feat. I remember reading about, and I think this was back in a town where my grandma used to live, but they were going to move a big historical home, right? It was a whole thing, but they had to have so many big chunks of equipment and really knowledgeable people. And it was like, okay, we have to do this all in one swift, organized motion. And that's not just something anyone can do.
Yeah, I will say this. In the story, I make a lot of jokes about how they're very vague on house information. I will say that at the end of doing the story, I did find a picture from it.
Oh, you did?
So I actually was like, should I rewrite it and explain it? And I was like, no, I like making fun of the fact that it took me so much to find this. So I'm going to show you a picture of what it looked like. Because it said 1,500 to 1,700 square foot house. That's not a small square footage to be moving. So this is what people came and saw just in the middle of the road one day.
Oh my God.
Like it's just a big single, what's it called?
Your ranch style.
Yeah, ranch style house. I mean, that thing's big.
That does not look sturdy.
I don't know whose truck he was using. I mean, maybe it was his. That's a big old truck. But yeah, you can see why he was taking out light poles and stuff like that. That thing is more than double the width of the road.
Yeah. And it's just dangling off of the truck.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're not going to have control. I don't know. I'm not a professional house mover, but I feel like the professionals would have maybe 2 big trucks or something. I don't know what they do, but that does not look right.
Yeah, I know when they move certain like double wide trailers and stuff, the house is in two pieces and then they stick it together. Like this looks like an old ranch style house. I would never even think about moving a house. I would just say that's where it is. That's where you get it.
I know. Yeah, I understand historical homes maybe. I don't even remember what the situation was on that example that I gave, but that makes sense. Okay, there's like history and I don't know why they need to move it. That seems to maybe take away the history, but yeah, this is just a regular old house that
he had property for.
Yeah.
They never said anything about them being on drugs, although looking up some different things about this guy, he's been arrested in the past, so he might be kind of a drug guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cost of a giant truck that can move a house is a lot of money, and you literally abandon it.
There's got to be something. There's got to be something. Like, that's not illogical. But then again, you wouldn't think that someone would jam to Whitney Houston for 3 hours straight. That's not logical either. And she was saying that the only thing she had was diabetes and wasn't on drugs or anything. So I don't know. It sounds fishy, like something is missing.
Yeah, it's super weird, but still a cool story. You know, I've actually held on to this story for probably a year. And the whole time I've been holding on to it, I was like, I'll get to it. I thought it was a mobile home story. And then it wasn't until I wrote this, I was like, oh my God, this is a full house.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing. Like, you need to try and make sure the house structure is safe too. God, I just feel like that is not something you just want to throw together and abandon.
Yeah, it feels like something that when you do get to your place and you get everything hooked up,
you're
going to find out that there's a lot of issues.
But like you said, how kind that they moved the house for him where he wanted it to go.
Yeah, at that point they said that he was about a third of a mile away from his destination, which is another reason why it's like, why did you abandon it?
Was the train mailbox was like your own personal touch, right? Or did it say anything about that? Okay.
No, it didn't. I made that up because I was just trying to think of like, what would be a person's breaking point?
Right.
To have just been like, my spirits are so shattered that I'm just leaving it.
Yeah.
Why would you? At that point, you're a third of a mile away from where you're wanting to go. You've broken all these rules. You've broken all this stuff. Just finish the job. And
just destroy a couple other electrical poles and not go to jail. Well, no, you'd go to jail regardless. What am I saying?
You'd still get arrested, yeah.
But I don't think they'd charge you per light pole. Like, yeah, if you're only, a third a mile away?
If he would have gotten it to the right spot, then there was a huge trail of mayhem behind him. He would have at least got away from the charge of obstructing the road, because they would have been like,
True.
I never saw you do it. You know, you didn't leave a truck and house in the middle of the road.
True.
I mean, they could put two and two together and be like, you were probably obstructing the road then, but I don't know if they would really give him that ticket. They would probably just give him the ticket for all the damage.
Damn.
And not having the permit, of course.
Well, I did think of two connections, actually.
Okay.
Both of our crimes took place in the month of May.
Oh.
I don't think this is coming out in May.
The 26th of April.
Oh, okay. Okay. Also, both of our criminals this week just wanted to go home, Trevin.
That's true.
My lady just wanted to go home, which now that I'm back on my story, I don't know if she was going through a breakup. But both of them stated that they just wanted to go home. Like in my story, she was just trying to take her flight home. Your guy just wanted to create his home.
Wow. We still have the home connection. Look at us go.
We're just on a level. What can I say?
This was a very different episode for us. But I'm fine with it.
We both were feeling musical.
Yeah.
Yours was a little more of the, I don't even know if it was supposed to be a rap song, but it felt that way to me.
It was just attitude on top of a beat.
Yeah. Which, I mean, hey, isn't that technically what rapping is?
Yeah.
So we were both feeling musical and we were both feeling homey. Gotta love it.
Yeah, homie.
Well, shout out to all of our homies out there listening today. And I hope you're all having the best week. And just remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed to find our homes.
Yay. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to our singing today. And while you're at it, why don't you go ahead and sing a song to your friend and guide them over to our show.
And you can find us on any social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. Make sure you don't send us any spam, though.
And if you have ever tried to move your own house, send us your petty crime story. livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
And give us 5 stars only wherever you listen to podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Good Pods. Don't be negative. I might just diss you. And yes, even your rectum's sense of relief after holding a brown bomber for an entire 8-hour shift. Oh my God.
Brown bomber.